The Las Vegas Raiders, a team I'm higher on than most. I loved their offseason so much. From bringing in their head coach that's a Hall of Famer to bringing in a quarterback who is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. They made so many good, smart moves. I had to think, is this really the Raiders of all teams doing smart decisions? I've been very critical of the Raiders in the past. I was not a fan of the Gruden regime, and I was very much not a fan of Josh McDaniels' regime. Antonio Pierce, I was willing to give a chance, but I understand why they got rid of him after 1 year. It just wasn't going to work out long term. He was a good Band-Aid, not a good long-term solution. So now we look at the Raiders. They're headed towards a positive direction. Where are they going to finish this year, though? What was their offseason's overall goal? And how good can they be, not only this season, but for the future as well? To start this out, I want to talk about their brand new head coach in Pete Carroll. And saying brand new and Pete Carroll just don't seem to go together too much in my head, but it's the case with the Raiders. Now, Pete, his time had come to an end in Seattle. It was best for both parties to move on. They need to go a new direction, and I believe Pete needed to go a new direction as well. He comes to the Raiders, and what does he bring? He brings energy. He brings fun. He brings joy to play the game of football. Something Seattle struggled with before he got there as well. For those of you who don't know, Seattle was a really bad toxic culture before Pete Carroll got there. He turned it on its head and took them to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying he's going to take the Raiders to the Super Bowl. There's so many different things we don't know about the Raiders so far to account for a Super Bowl trip. But with what I do know is Pete Carroll knows how to reinvigorate a franchise, and that's his goal for the Raiders. This whole coaching staff, their goal is not necessarily to win a Super Bowl. It'd be a great added bonus, but they were brought in to rejuvenate this walking zombie corpse of a franchise that's been on autopilot since the first Gruden tenure. I want to talk about the free agency period they had before I talk about their big acquisition. And up first, you got to talk about their losses. Trayvon Moehrig, who just didn't fit Pete Carroll's system. I was not shocked that he left. I was not shocked they really didn't make an effort to re-sign him. He just doesn't fit Pete Carroll and how he likes his safeties playing. Nate Hobbs, that did shock me because I really do love Nate Hobbs. I think he's versatile. I think he can play outside corner, nickel, or safety. Just a very versatile weapon that I think will be missed for the Raiders. Robert Spillane. Spillane is a what-have-you guy. I saw him a lot in Pittsburgh. He never really blew me away, but he's a solid linebacker that's really good at communicating. That could be a loss with communication, but I don't really think it's a major loss considering how much Pete Carroll likes his linebackers doing. Robert Spillane just isn't athletic enough to do everything Pete Carroll likes his middle linebackers to do. Then you look at Divine Diablo, just wasn't going to be re-signed there. But they did bring in a couple guys. Jeremy Chin, who is pretty much going to be their big nickel this year. Very talented guy. Alex Kappa. Can't be worse than what you had in the interior line last year with moving JPJ over to center. Kappa will probably take the guard spot next to him. Jermaine Pratt, again, more signaling towards nickel in my opinion. Landon Roberts, great downhill linebacker. Not really in pass coverage, but if you need someone to stop the run, put him in there, have him play downfield. Now, let's talk about it. The big move they made, and if you listen to my channel, you know how much I love him. Geno effin' Smith. Geno Smith is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. I don't care who you are talking about. Why, you ask? Because he impacts winning. That Seattle Seahawks team should have probably been a bottom 5 record his past 2 seasons there. Why? That offense line was such a train wreck. And he somehow worked with it. And you can make the argument, hey, his tackles were hurt. Yeah, I get that. But I saw that interior pressure. I saw how no one could hold up in the interior of the Seahawks offense line, and it was bad week in, week out. Geno would get pressure from the interior, and he'd be forced to throw a bad ball, get out of it, or just take a hit. These were not good conditions for winning football. That 2-year period, no. They had winning records because Geno Smith handled it perfectly. He is such an upgrade for the Raiders. He is the best quarterback they've had in a long time. I don't see how they only gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. I think more teams should have been in on that, trying to get him. I understand he wanted to play with Pete Carroll. That's his guy. That's the guy who bet on him in Seattle. He wanted to reward that trust, go to Vegas, help him out there. I fully get that. I think the Raiders got a phenomenal player for a 3rd-round pick and a top 12 quarterback at worst, there are moments he is a top 10 quarterback without a doubt. Great move by the Raiders, and that feels really weird to say when we're talking about the Raiders in the quarterback position, but it's just the case. Now we look at the Raiders draft class, and those of you who listen to me during the draft process, you know I am very anti-running back round one. But I will give the Raiders a little bit of a shred of, hey, I understand. The reason why Pete Carroll is not going to be here 3 to 4 years from now. Well, he might be here 3 to 4 years from now. He ain't going to be here 5 to 6 years from now. What's a rookie contract? 4 to 5 years, 5th-year option. I don't know if that'd be picked up. That's projecting, but we all pretty much know how good Genty will be. It makes logical sense for the Raiders to draft a running back top 10. I may not like it too much, but I get it at the end of the day. They're the one team that makes sense for it. They also drafted Jack Besh, who is a talented wide receiver who I like as a third option, which he will be with the Raiders behind Jakobi Meyers and Brock Bowers. And before people say I didn't talk about Genty enough, let me just say this real quick. Phenomenal runner, great after contact balance. I really can't say much of what's already not been said. He's been talked about to death. He's a tremendous player. I loved him as a running back. I just wouldn't take him top 10, if that makes sense. Now we look at some other picks, and really there's just one pick I want to highlight here. Charles Grant. I had a draft crush on Charles Grant. This is the dude that I would put in the interior of the line to start out, but I'd also keep development as a tackle because he has all the potential in the world to be the how did this guy fall to the 3rd round type player. And the reason why, he hasn't played a whole bunch of football, which is shocking when you watch him because his technique is really good for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience playing the game. It's shocking how good he is at his level. And it makes me really think, oh, this dude is going to be a problem in a couple years in the NFL. He'll probably develop into a top 10 tackle if he's given the chance. And yes, that's how highly I think of him. And one quick little shout out, I am from the state of Montana. I watched a lot of Tommy Mellott. Moving him to wide receiver, the best thing the Raiders could do. He is very much not a quarterback, but very talented, hard to tackle. He seems to worm his way out of positions that you're like, how didn't he get tackled there? That's just the skill set he brings. It'll be interesting to see how he catches the ball. We really didn't see a lot of that in Montana State, but that's a guy you bet on in the 6th round especially. The strengths for the Raiders, I think, is going to be, honestly, their weapons are pretty solid. Would I like to see them bring in another wide receiver? Absolutely, yes. But Brock Bowers is a really good tight end. He's probably going to be a top 5 tight end sooner than later. Jakobi Meyers is a really good wide receiver. Ashton Genty should be a really good running back. He might be a top 5 running back out of the gate, which is insane to say about a rookie that, oh, he's top 5 maybe day 1 in the league. Like, they have such good weapons that I'm very excited to see their future. And I know a lot of people are concerned with Genty because the Raiders couldn't run block to save their lives last year. Well, the Raiders have a new center. They're moving Jackson Powers-Johnson over to center from guard. Powers-Johnson very much fits Ashton Genty. He can be a power guy, and that's really with what the Raiders are going to run here for him. They're going to run a lot of power-based offense. And if anyone has a concern about Chip Kelly being too fast, too quick pace, I wouldn't have that worry. That was an old Chip Kelly thing. He hasn't been like that since returning to coaching. At UCLA, they were slower paced than other stops beforehand. Then you look at him at Ohio State. They were practically an NFL offense with the pace they ran. He's just very much adapted his coaching style to fit more of an NFL pace. I think it'll be fine. The questions of how he adjusts to just calling plays from the college to NFL game is yet to be determined, but the pace should not be an issue as it once was. Now, weaknesses, I would have to point out, I think this defense is still coming along. They got some pieces I do like, and Max Crosby is a beast, one of the best edge rushers in the entire league at both rushing the passer and stopping the run. But their defense does need work, and I am having to re-record this part a little bit because they just released Christian Wilkins, and I was a big Christian Wilkins guy. His foot must be really messed up to be cutting him like this, and they are avoiding that contract, but it leaves them more of a hole on the interior defensive line that wasn't there prior, which leads me to some more concern for the Raiders. But I do trust Pete Carroll to figure out the defense. He is one of the best defensive coaches in my lifetime. He has an eye for that side of the ball. I'll give him the trust. Now, where do I have the Raiders finishing overall in the season standings for the division? I think they'll be battling for third place Denver Broncos. In fact, I give them the nod overhand just because I'm that big of a Geno Smith homer. I think he's so good, so underrated, and you're going to give him Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, and Ashton Jeanty. I think this offense is going to be really good. It's underrated right now, in my opinion, especially for the fact they're not going to have a lot of like second and longs and third and longs early on in the games because Jeanty's probably going to get 4 yards a carry early on, really getting them in better positions to pick up first downs, continue drives, and keep that defense fresh. I really do like the Raiders this year. I don't think this is the year they necessarily make the playoffs, but I think it's a step towards that. I overall do think, though, that the Raiders are finally headed towards a positive direction. I've been negative on them for a long, long time. Probably the last time I was positive on them was Derek Carr's rookie year because I'm like, oh, Carr looked really good for a rookie second-round pick. They have something going there, and then they just found a way to mess it up after year. Just couldn't help themselves. So now we look at the Raiders. I see the goal. I see the finish line. It's a far better constructed team. It's a far better coached team most likely this year. We're going to see big improvements for the Raiders this season. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you'd share this, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm doing 32 in 32 days, 32 team previews in 32 consecutive days. Know it's a little crazy, but hey, I am crazy. If you want to check out some other prior ones, this is alphabetical order. Raiders fans, I did a Chiefs one prior to this. I did a Broncos one also prior to this. Want to go check those out? Hear what I think about your division rivals? Please do. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.